Alright, we're here. Hello. So, oh gosh, what is my hair doing? We're gonna do a little bit of Apocalypse World prep today. Oh gosh, that can come with a more central on it. I thought we've had a week off from Apocalypse World, from Damp Spirits, and I thought, and we're at a pretty big, like, kind of like cliffhangery point. So I thought it would be a good idea to do a little bit of like more in-depth prep than what I've been doing, and we can go over that together. I haven't done a prep stream before, so like I'll be going over some of the things that I've been like thinking through in my previous prep, so that we can like talk about it together. And then we will be ready for tonight's game, which will be happening at it'll be happening at 7:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. So let's have a look at where we're at. We've got our map, which I've kind of compiled out of a couple of local Adelaide suburbs. I decided to do the set it in your hometown thing, partially because then I could like really clearly picture what certain areas look like and what they might look like given an apocalypse, especially like a weird one. I'm gonna have a harder time if I'm trying to picture Sydney or something, because I don't know what that looks like very well anyway. Like, I've only been there once, let alone then trying to put an apocalypse on top of it. What's really interesting about that though is that by doing that, by making it somewhere that's familiar, I don't barf as much apocalyptica when I'm playing, in that when I do like present scenes and things, they're not as extremely bent out of shape by the apocalypse. They are somehow warped, but not as intensely. There's no like we haven't talked a lot about like big fallen over buildings and like stuff that's made out of complete trash and things like that. It's a lot of like it's a lot of just reusing stuff that I'm already familiar with, which is really interesting. So for your benefit, chat, and I've been told by my players that they're going to be good and not come into here and find things out. This is actually a town called Wollonga in South Australia, which is around where my parents, where I grew up. And then this section here is modelled off of an area called Huntfield Heights, which is an area that I lived in a share house for a while, including the nearby like shopping centre. So like I've just kind of taken those two maps and like mashed them together to get this kind of area. So I've got Finnis Heights down here, and I'm thinking this section up here I'm actually going to call something like Morford Gardens, and I'm wondering if there's a difference between this right hand side here and this left hand side based on the existence of this highway. So we're at a point in our game where we've got a bunch of things that are like happening, and they're live, they're getting going, and so you can see that I've been tracking those on zoom in. Gosh, I've been tracking those on. Golly, right on there. Zoom in. There we go. I've been tracking those on clocks, and what I've done is a little bit counter to what Vincent says to do in second edition Apocalypse World. So in second edition Apocalypse World, Vincent actually gives us two different tools to use. He gives us, where am I? Role-playing games, Apocalypse World, second edition, basic playbooks. So he gives us these two tools, right? He gives us this one, the threat map, where we list our threats on this map, right? Like around how they're positioned around the PCs. And he also gives us these threat, like, I would almost make these as index cards, right? So yeah, so instead of doing that, because I found that kind of frustrating in, because I was using the threat map in Roll20, which you can do, right? Like you can see I've got the threats as threat maps on here, but I kind of wanted to also have them, the threats on the threat map as their threat cards that we have in this other document. I wanted to combine both of these, and it was really weird feeling like I had two documents to manage the same information. I understand that kind of these should just be like the names that then link to the actual cards, and you like they're referencing. But given that I'm operating in a digital space and it's not as easy to like just pick up a physical piece of paper, a physical card with the thing on it. We've kind of gone with a different approach, and this kind of pulls back to first edition Apocalypse World as well, where most things were had countdowns for the threats. So yeah, we've got them as tokens on the map with clocks. So if we go down to Partridge and we go, we'll jump on the GM layer. If we have a look at Partridge, I can click on Partridge and I can have a look at all of the details of that threat, right? I've got their family, so they close ranks to protect their own, and then I've got the moves for that particular kind of threat, so I can pop those out and have a look when I need to and be like, they're going to demand consideration or indulgence, or they're going to cling to or defy reason. So that's the kind of thing that that I want to be able to do. I want to have the things on the map and then have them very, very quickly accessible when I'm going to actually like play and use them, right? Like the fucking cold is, I want to just be like, what do? Someone proclaims the affliction to be a punishment, right? Like that happens and we just do that. The thing is, because I've got them all as clocks, I've been doing this thing that I need to like think about a little bit more, in that I've been ticking them up and I've only got like one clock token. If you want to see how I've done this token thing, what I've done is I've gone to collection. Yeah, cool. I've got a rollable table, right, called countdown, and I've got the different stages on the countdown clock in there as separate images. And then when I want to add something to the board, I can come over here and I can go. So we've got the man. We've been talking about the man, but then in the last game we came up with our grandparent character, Sunrise, opened their brain and kind of read a situation to work out like what were the threats of the situation, and we kind of worked out that there was a difference between Paradise as a unit and the man as a character. So I've been ticking up the man slowly over time, but I can just check another token in here. So if I click the token button, you'll see that one appears on here, and then I can choose the side. I can be like, it's up to 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10, 11, 12, midnight. I'm going to put that on there, and I'm just going to say Paradise. And let's have a look. What kind of threat is Paradise? Because I think because Paradise is Yeah, this is all in Roll20. This is how I manage the game now. It's just entirely in Roll20 and jumping back and forth with the PDFs if I need to. So yeah, I love Roll20. It's a great tool for GMing and running games. I like drawing maps in Roll20. Like, they're not great drawing tools, but I find that they're enough for me to do what I need. And like, once you kind of understand how they work, you can do some neat stuff with them, even if it's still like pretty jank. It's enough to like create some cool effects and things. Right, cool. God, that bird is grumpy today. So we've got the man, and you'll notice I've got a clock here, and it's set to 6 o'clock because it tells me kind of like how dire it is, but I haven't set the actual terms for the clock. I haven't said what happens when that countdown gets to different stages, which I think I need to do more directly. I need to think more directly about what happens at those different stages of those countdowns, and that's one of the things I wanted to do today. So what we'll do is we'll actually start with Paradise. And the reason I'm bringing Paradise in now is because it's to do with the actual interactions that that the players are going to have. I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna bring I'm gonna check it on the objects and tokens layer. I'm gonna bring give down, like chuck them in here somewhere. Alright. I'm gonna check sunrise in like here, I reckon. Oh, wait. Sunrise. I just want to know where everyone is, right? Like when I'm thinking about this stuff. And Mito's down here somewhere. Cool. Alright, so Give is like approaching Paradise currently, sneaking in using their underground tunnels, and Sunrise is currently positioned in a sniping position. We decided that this was not, like, 600 meters is a long way for sniping, but like I don't know how possible that is. I think reasonably we can say that they can see to like here, right? Like 300 to 500 meters, because that's a long way. But because Give is coming into Paradise, that's why I want to introduce this additional countdown to tell the difference between Paradise as a system and Paradise and the man as a person, as a character. So that brings me to the question, like, what is the man? The man, we decided, was a collector, which is a warlord. Yeah, and so his desire is to own, but what is it a landscape or is it a terrain? It's not a wall. It's not an overhang. It's not an exposed place. It's not shifting ground. It's not broken ground. It's not a precipice. So it's definitely, I think it's a landscape then. What have we got for what other landscapes have we got? And then we can double up, but I kind of like not doing that. The Grove is a maze. What does it do? It trap, frustrate passage. Yeah. And then Furnace Heights itself, so this is referring to the whole map, is a furnace, right? It's consuming things. But I think Paradise and its surrounding area almost are a different kind of landscape. So I kind of like this one, right? It's not Is it a prison? Or is it a mirage, right? Or is it a fortress? I think it's actually a fortress. Which is interesting, because like its entire thing is to like it's also a prison. It's a prison and a fortress. Like it doesn't want anyone to come in or go out. That it doesn't. I feel like prison makes more sense, right? Combined with the collector, in that it is if the collector wants to own things, then it makes sense for the thing to be a prison where things don't escape. Yes, it is a fortress, I think, but I think it almost wants to, prisons can be fortress-like. It almost wants to hold things within it, and like the fortress purpose is to, I think its fortressness is actually to the purpose of stopping people getting in to get things out. So let's grab that. And so prison. Cool. Alright. Yeah, it's almost a mirage as well, right? Like it's almost about like lies and disappointment and betrayal. In that, like, the people that go there, how much is it a lie? How much do we how much are the promises made by Paradise? How much are they lies? And I don't think we know that yet. I think that's the thing. Let's add that, right? Like, let's add. No, goddamn it. How much of the promise of Paradise is a lie? Cool. Alright. So we've got that on there. And now the question for me is, what happens as... Yeah, right? Like, if it's a prison, then, like, if it were just a paradise, if it weren't a lie, then people would come and go as they please. So yeah, being prison does imply a certain level of it being a lie. But I'm not sure how extreme that is. So yeah, the question that I'm dealing with now is, let's go through these steps. Okay. Choosing its name, copy its impulses, describe its list and cast. Placed on the threat map if it's in motion, mark its direction with an arrow. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying things are outside or inside. I'm just using physical distance. If it's connected to other threats, list them. If it calls for a custom move or a countdown, create it. So, let's jump in here. Have I got list and cast for Paradise? For Partridge? Family? No, I need to do that as well. So we need to look at, for all of these, we need to look at what are their cast and connected threats and things. And table. It'd be nice to have this in columns, really. But I'm not sure how doable that is. I don't want to like fully columnize it. Connected. Nah, let's... The man. Master of Paradise. Collector. Oh, nice things. Is it nice things? No, not necessarily of useful things. The man is quite, like, wants to control everything, but is practical. Wants to own the things that he needs. in an interesting way, I think Immortan Joe is maybe a collector, in that he, that character specifically is trying to hold on to and get like wives and offspring, and yeah, I think that's interesting. Connected to the man. Are they connected to anyone else? I don't know. Like we've talked about, what do their supply lines look like? How do the supply lines of Paradise work? Oh, it's such a good movie though. The other question I have is like, what do the defenses of Paradise look like? Because we know that they have heavy defenses, but I don't know the direct shape of them yet. So I'm interested to see what happens, like what that ends up looking like. Cool. Let's just edit this up. Let's moves. Connected. Wait, no, not tab. List. Connected Paradise. Lands. Dominion. Domain. 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 I mean, they lure people in with a promise, right? But I don't think they're like, whether or not they generate a surplus, like I don't think they give anything out to people to lure people in. I just think people know that, because we had that discussion with, oh gosh, what's the name? Apocalypse. Damn spirits. Hold up, let me find this. That needs in the title. I don't want to bring that back in somehow, but I'm not sure how we would bring the doll back in just yet. Who did we talk to? It was Parcha, the big old Greek woman who was telling our young'un that they should join either the Sons of Combustion or Paradise, inadvertently acting as a like, is it Demesne? Is that how you spell domain when it's? It is. Yes, the land. Real property versus. What? For their own use, I think, is the main thing. Yeah. I reckon it's like more personal, which this is not. Cool. And I think they're pronounced the same, so... Cool. Yeah, so, like... Is there an enemy to the man? I mean... I don't feel like there's that kind of direct opposition in this situation, right? Like... There are people who are opposing each other to get different shit in that, like... Or want things. But I don't think it's... Yeah, jail versus jail. Like the Sons of Combustion want guns. Have I got a different thing for the Sons of Combustion and a different thing for... No? The Sons of Combustion are a cult. Roots. Cult. Victimize and incorporate people. Connected to... Shit, what's his name? The head of balls is the... Sons of Combustion. It was Doghead, but he's dead. Who else is connected to them? I'm jumping back and forth a bit here. Sorry. I'm just trying to get things in when I think of them. Boz is the dead one. Yeah, Boz died in a car accident. There are some other people there that are definitely important that I need to get in there, but oh, come on, moves. There are some other people that I need to get into here that I can't remember the name of, which is a problem. They're brutes, so they push reading a situation, they burst out in undirected violence, all of that jazz. There we go, cool. The Deadites of Apocalypse World? I don't know what Deadites means, Andrew. Oh, right, yeah. Cool. So, oh, god damn it, really? Whatever, who cares? Alright. Filled that in because we were not dealing with it. So, yeah, I'm not sure that Paradise and the Man have a direct opposition. I don't... oh, right, the Deadites. Yeah. Yeah, those ones are dead. Yeah. They're NPCs that have been crosshair and fired at. They're gone. Yeah. There are some alive that I can't remember the name of, which is a problem. So I'm going to have to work out what I'm going to do about that. But yeah, as far as people who are in direct opposition, there aren't people that are like directly warring currently, apart from the man's demands of the man on Mito and the radio tower, right? Like, and those that are living there now. I'm wondering if the lights needs to be... So the lights was what I was using to track whether or not the radio tower like runs out of power and falls down. But I feel like it's also kind of tracking So like we're at this like 9 o'clock point because we managed to just inch it back. 3 was shortage of fuel. 6 was no more spare fuel left. 9 was machines break from yeah, right, like if I forget people then they're just dead, gone. I mean they were pretty side characters, but I like to keep them around so that we can have them cut and pop up back and reincorporate. Machines break from power outages. 10 was 10 was when we had the actual like broadcast stop, I think. 11 was like serious fucking, I don't know, like serious fucking damage. This place is useless now. Right, like we have this big fucking tower, and yeah, teetering on the edge of collapse is basically broadcast stops, right? Like 10 o'clock is and like serious damage is I feel like records broken, broadcast machinery fucked, that kind of shit. Records broken, broadcast machinery fucked, right? Like it's dealing with the long-term stuff, whereas this is like, yeah, like it's got, this is the point at which it starts getting worse if it's not dealt with, or this is, but yeah, this is the point at which it's like, no, like everything is completely broken, like lights, keeping the place warm, all those sorts of things. Yeah, it's the whole area. The question with the lights is, does the lights include the fact that there's now people there? And are they a threat? Like, are the retirees a threat in this situation? I don't see them being one currently. I see them mostly as victims. And like, I've also got the fucking cold to like cover things that happen to them. So I'm feeling like I've got those two covered. And like, yeah, let's have a look at that. Yeah, cool. It's really interesting how this like always talks about someone doing something. Self-productive fruitless action, neglects duties, responsibilities, or obligations, proclaims affliction. Because to me, like this condition of the cold primarily pushes deharm. No, not deharm. Is it deharm? Where are we? Yeah, deprivation harm. Like that's what the cold does, right? Like when we've talked about that, it's specifically like hypothermia. I'm just gonna chuck that into here so that I've got that on hand. Because that's what I think of when I think of the cold, right? Like I'm not thinking, oh no, not italics or strike through. And when we've done it in the past, right? Like, people have had to, what are the retirees' needs? Yeah, right? Like, the retirees need to be protected from the cold, and they need to have food, and they need to have all those things. I think I'm gonna list them against the lights, right? Cast. The fucking radio station. I don't need to swear in my notes. The retirees need warmth, need food. I feel like those are the two things that people need in this. Like, water is not going to be an issue if they've got warmth, I feel like. No. Like, we kind of had that thing of like how we're keeping this place warm happening already. So that's interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cold and I'm going to move it up here, right? This is where the cold is a problem. Like, we had the cold down here, especially near Sunrise's Hearth, because it was affecting that community. But I feel like Partridge is handling the issue of the cold for their community, right? Like, the cold pushes Partridge to close their ranks and pull them in. Yeah, right? Like, the whole list of someone does X is definitely self-destructive things, right? That's what this is. That's what this is doing. This is how that condition affects the like half dozen retirees that are living in the radio tower. Yeah, that works for me. So I'm just gonna put them next to each other and declare those to be the two threats that are happening in that area. And then Partridge can continue to be like, no, it's cool, I got you. We're building a castle. And I think that's fine. I'm not sure that Tower's a threat, so that's fine. I don't know where the fuck this should be. Let's think about like things that are happening in the story for the wolves. Like, we've encountered them like directly twice. But at the same time, I like, what does it look like as they approach? What's the worsening situation for them? Let's talk about the wolves. Let's talk about the wolves and so how are we doing with our stuff for Paradise? We'll come back to Paradise. That's too fucking complicated at the moment. I have a bit of an idea about where we're at with wolves and things. I mean, yeah, like, the child thing is the person who's supposed to be the only one that feels that threat. Supposed to. But, is it not real to the others? Does it say that in the book? Does it say that the wolves don't exist to anyone outside of... Where are we? Child thing. News, child thing. The wolves are hunting you. So they're specifically after one character. Yeah, they only hunt the child thing. That doesn't mean they're not real. The perversions of birth. Yeah. Overthrow, chaos, ruination of all. So that's really weird. Right? They only hunt the child thing, but they want to ruin everything. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They're definitely getting at the others to get towards the child thing. They're definitely trying to get at, like, what I feel like happens is that, like, whenever Give is near people, they can also attract the wolves. Like, if you think about what happened, and like, this is obviously spoilers. This is going to be all spoilers, right? If we think about what happened with Clarion, right? If we think about like how that played out, like Giv was in the room there, but it was Mito's attempt to open their mind to the maelstrom that kind of made the wolves be an issue. That is a great question, Andrew. Yeah, I think I'm going to talk about I think I'm going to use this to track stuff that is, like, so the wolves and the maelstrom for me are quite, like, they're the wolves of the maelstrom, right? They're connected, but I don't think that they are the same force, and I think there's some kind of opposition happening in there, in this game. I'm just going to put the maelstrom notes in here. I think I have some thoughts about what the maelstrom looks like now. Also, where are we? Cool. So the wolves are perversions of birth. They do not need, that does not need to be 2 lines. And we picked that they looked like people that had empty holes for eyes, and don't bold that. Look like people that have empty holes for eyes. Yeah, right. I'm trying to remember if we thought any of the PCs were wolves. I don't think, no, because or at least I can't remember what Jimmy's answer to that question was. Because at the start you have to ask the question, and I'm pretty sure no one said that they were wolves, but one of them was like a maybe, like we don't know. I think it might have been Jimmy. Where are we? They only howl. I quite like this one. I quite like that. So, one of the things that I'm getting from this, right? So, they have empty holes for eyes, and they only howl. Yeah, someone was a maybe, and I think it was Jimmy, but I'd have to go back and look. But, like, check this. So, every time the maelstrom, it's these are the 2 things that have been the common themes so far. Oh, the 3 things, actually. So, like, look at the way these line up, right? We've got empty holes for eyes, and they only howl. And whenever someone's opened their... And, like, obviously this is how we see... This is how we interact with the world, is through our senses. It's pretty broad. But we've always had... this thing that is people seeing or hearing differently. There's always that drone, that audio thing. Whenever anyone's looking into the maelstrom, opens their brain to the maelstrom, we always have the, like, that's the common theme, right? is that audio effect, is this droning thing, and I'm trying very hard to avoid specifically calling up didgeridoos, because that's like one of the really interesting things about this game is that I initially wanted to go and talk to the Ghana elders, who are the people who are the traditional owners of the land that I'm talking about, that I'm setting this in, right? They're the traditional owners of this area. And so I wanted to go and talk to the Ghana elders and incorporate some of their dreaming into this. But I haven't been able to do that, right? It's really tricky to try and organize that as far as like the logistics and bureaucracy around that kind of stuff. Like you have to go through the right organizations, because the elders are like, you know, they're busy, and also like they want to make sure that you're not going to be a dick. So I haven't been able to do that. But I've also been trying so hard not to fucking whitewash this, and if I'm being Ozcore, which is apparently what we're doing, like there is an element of our understanding of like a white understanding of indigenous stuff that ties into that. Like that's always been an element of like there's always been a connection to me between the indigenous stories I was told when I was younger and the kind of Australian horror stories and things, right? Like they're both a response to the feeling of Australian landscape, and there is a common tone amongst them, and so I always have that lineup. But I'm trying really hard to make sure that I don't take any indigenous cultural elements and use them, especially not as antagonistic forces, spooky things, mystical things. I'm trying really hard to avoid that. So we have that idea of the drone, but I've specifically like tried to avoid referencing didgeridoos and things, and just making it more of a just I kind of think of it now more like a kind of a low tinnitus or something. So like we've got that thing of that audio being really, really important to our experience of the Maelstrom. Yeah, I know, right? Like there are parallels because landscape. There are parallels between the emerging culture of white Australia, which is still emerging in response to its landscape, and it will be for a long time before it looks anything like a solid thing. And like white culture is multicultural Australian culture to a certain degree, because we are very appropriative. Yeah, right? So this is the thing. The radio setup came into it, in that we started talking about resonant frequencies of when in the Clarion event we started talking talking about like the resonant frequencies of the stuff emerging out of that drone. And I'm thinking about we went and saw tinnitus as an idea is in my head because we went and saw Baby Driver. And so this idea of like, yeah, of just sound is a thing. And so that's like, and like when we had the encounter with the doll, and I yelled at I just made this noise at everyone and everyone was very upset. That is that howl, right? Like it's a version of that. And so I think that there's a thing where, and I hinted toward this when Sunrise again like failed open their brain check when they were in the radio tower, and they had that experience of losing both their sight and their hearing, right? So I feel like that the combination of the fact that they have holes for eyes and only howl is telling us that like sight and sound and maybe other senses are what this Maelstrom is about in this game, right? It's about how we perceive the world around us. It is literally about our perception. And so, yeah, the electric buzz Yeah. Like high-powered substations is definitely another one of those like hum sounds that are coming into that thing, and interference with radio and all those sorts of things are the kind of sounds that I'm thinking of, where we're almost perceiving things that are not visible, right? Like interference in radio, substations, all that sort of stuff is about like this other perception. Like, sure, they make literal sound, but they're not. You don't see someone do those sounds, right? So, at the moment, my thing is, I think the maelstrom is about your perception, and I think the wolves are trying to rob you of that in some way. They kind of consume it or they want it. The eye that Sunrise has, I'm aware it's actually a translation of other forces, Andrew. It's fine. It's magic to me. Yeah, totally. There's a speaker making those things, but it's still a representation of a thing we can't see. So yeah, I'm feeling like the wolves are trying to take sense for themselves in some way, sensation and perception for themselves, in that they don't have that. Like, I think they howl so loud that they have trouble hearing, right? I don't think they hear. I don't think they see. I think they have some kind of other extrasensory perception. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think they have some kind of extrasensory perception and they want normal perception. And I think there's a thing where, like, in the maelstrom, we shift into another perception. And in doing so, kind of open ourselves up to, like, we kind of abandon our regular senses and start using this other sense that they're kind of operating on, right? This kind of, like, just narrative perception. You just perceive things as story, right? Like, you just get ideas in the same way that in the dream you just suddenly know something. I think that's what it looks like when we're opening our brain, right? We see, we know, like, when we see Boz die in that car crash and then like get up out of his body and start walking towards Partridge's place, and we have that whole thing with the barbecue. That's not really, like, I don't think it's even happening on some other plane, right? It's just a thing, like a dream. It is perceiving without sense. So I that's where I'm going, and I want to know. This is the one other thing that's been coming up to that, and the someone just out of sight, and I'm trying to work out who that someone is, in that they might be your other self that does that perceiving. The person behind the person that's just out of sight might be your real self that you've abandoned, in order to perceive in this way. They might be your wolf self that might step in at any point. To try and consume your sense and sense from others. They might be just some kind of, like, homunculus that like, that shadows each person, that gives them the ability to have that perception. So, like, there's all these sorts of there's some kind of second. There's some kind of other person that is connected to each person, I think. Right? It's not just the main characters that we've dealt with. I think that everyone has this second person that we don't. I don't think we're. I'm going to put that in our questions. Who is your second person? Because I want to answer that and play. But I think there is that's definitely a thing, right? Like, it's connected to this perception thing. I have no idea where the wolves come from. I think it's the existence of the psychic maelstrom causes them to exist. Yeah, it's a reflection thing. I'm just not sure how much it physically looks like actually looks like you, or like anyone. Because I've specifically been, like, trying to not give physical descriptions of them yet, so we can answer that further down the road. Cool. All right. I don't feel like I know enough about what the wolves look like as a countdown to kind of put that together as a countdown currently. I think that they work better. I'm going to leave that as an empty countdown. and I don't need to add another dimension, right? Like when we have these when we have these clocks on the map, what they're doing is they're giving us 3 dimensions of positioning, right? We have a 2-dimensional position. Like, these 2 threats are 2-dimensionally very close to Mito right now. And the wolves are actually pretty far away, right? After the Clarion incident, they backed off. And they're but they are notably close to Tau and like in this area, right? That's an important thing. I don't think Tau's even a threat, but I want to mark them on the map, so that's why they've got a countdown. Yeah, exactly. They work really well as a way to push you on other things. Yeah, right. Maybe the wolves are just people who've gone too far, right? Like they've gone too far into the maelstrom. So yeah, like the lights gives us physically we have them in 2 dimensions, and then we have them in the 3rd dimension of severeness, right? It's that's how that like ends up looking. So given that we have an understanding of the wolves, that was the other threat that I think we need to add. And I don't know if this needs to be a countdown, but it's a threat, so I'm putting it on our map. And that is the highway. Because that is another weirdo thing. But the question is, it's not McLaren Vale, Cam. It's not. You should recognize this. Where's this? Where's this? What's if this is South Road, and this is in the real world colonnades, then this is what we're calling. Let's grab this. Let's go to our map area. Grab that. This I'm calling. Is it Morphit? Double T in Morphit? And then this is Finis Heights down here. Yeah, because it turns out that Hackham and Huntfield Heights are trashy Australian suburb as fuck, which is what I needed for my Ozcore shit. Yeah, right. It's like this area is a fucking mess as far as like, and then there's the giant. There's the like, because in this this highway is like cut into the ground. It completely divides off all these things, so the cul-de-sacs don't even like make sense. Like you can't like traverse that unless you get back out onto the main roads. Huntford Heights is lovely, except for the times that, you know, like we got like followed by dudes in the street, and like someone once tried to like run me off a footpath while he was riding a dirt bike on the footpath without a shirt. I'm sorry. This area is what I think of when I think of like trashy Australian suburb. Like more the Hackham area, but still, because I've lived there, right? Like, yeah, right. Yeah, if you leave the main road, then you are trapped in a maze. And I think I've said that about Finis Heights. Is that what I've said? No, I've said that Finis Heights is, what have I said Finis Heights is? It's a furnace. It consumes things. I think it's also a maze, but the Grove is a better maze. In that it's like a weird zone that does the maze stuff. But yeah, Morphic Gardens is my, yeah. Alright, so the highway is, so it's like the Grove, because the Grove is an extension of the highway, but the highway is a very direct thing, and the Grove is more spread out and like diluted, right? Yeah. I'm gonna chuck it down here at the intersection with Totally Not Honeypot Road. Let's have a look. Let's see what appeals to us. because in my head, all right, so let's talk about what I see in my head. So one of the core features of Australian ghost stories are road stories. When we talk about ghost stories, there are a very, very large number of things that have happened to people when they're driving through, like, specifically long distance driving, because it's a thing that happens so often in this landscape, right? Like, we have a country where everything is separated by very large distances, and roads are the primary way of like navigating that. Lots and lots of stories from truckers and things like that. So yeah, we have a lot of ghost stories about big long roads. It would, yeah, Honeypot Road is still like ominous, but let's go to yeah, right. Like, so there's this place called the Pilliga, right? Let's have a look and see if we can get some nice pictures of it. No? Yeah, right. So the Pilliga is this like national park with a big road running through it. It's this piece of road, I reckon. It's Narrabri to Dandry, I think, is the bit you want to watch out for, right? This A39. Can I zoom in there, please? Cool. All right. So the road between that, yeah, the Pilliga, right? The road from Narrabri to Coonabarabran is heckin'. It's haunted. That road is haunted. Let's have a look at some stuff. So this is the the grave of Claire Wibson, who was known as the Pilliga Princess. She was a homeless woman who just roamed along this road, and with a shopping cart full of trash, well, full of her belongings. Sorry. But she would always be on the road at night, and so and then when she finally died, she continued to seeing a person on the side of the road in the middle of bush drive is terrifying on its own. The fact that people think they've continued to see her afterwards is what makes it more of a ghost story. The story of the truck driver that hit her with the truck when she died is that she was standing on the side of the road pushing her cart, and then turned, and her face lit up with excitement as she put her hands above her head and ran into the front of the truck. Right, it's that kind of stuff. And then people have seen the trolley on its own pushing itself along the side of the thing. Yeah, so Pilliga Princess is one. A lot of Min Min lights around are seen in the Pilliga, which are lights that are UFO lights that follow along the side of the road and try and lure people off the track. So there's all this sort of stuff. How spooked do we want to get? Because there's I can take us to a real spooky place if you want. If I can play you a recording of a guy that. No, let's not go to that place. That's too spooky for me. I'm gonna have nightmares if I go to that. But the stories of the Pilliga get to real creepy real quick. Yeah, will-o-wisps, but so I use will-o-wisps as my analog, but Min Min lights have their own thing. They often don't I say lure people off, but they often run alongside things. It's called. Go and look up Min Min lights. It's a spooky time. And I'm not going to play you recordings of radio interviews of people that have encountered things in the Pilliga, because last time I did that I I had nightmares, so we're not going to do that. But the point is that highways in Australia, in Australian ghost stories, are important, and so I want to talk about that. And I'm trying to work out what fucking thing. Here's a fun one. That I have a question. Like, is it in here? No. Okay. I thought that we had to like choose an essential threat for the maelstrom, right? Like, yeah, but maybe that's not a thing anymore. Maybe it's not. Yeah. All right. We'll tone down the spoopy, and we'll just try and work out what we're dealing with. Wycliffe Wells. No. But yeah, this is interesting. Like, which of these lines up with, if anything, lines up with place that wants to fuck with you mentally, right? Maybe it's a maze. Maybe like Mirage makes sense as like without to entice and betray people, but like in that it's like, yeah, the maelstrom is a quintessential threat. I think the point is like I didn't know if we were supposed to try and find a kind of threat for it. Let's have a look at. I feel like it's a landscape or it's a terrain. Let's look closer. So, landscape. If it's a landscape, it might be a maze, which would tie it to our other maze, but like it's not a maze in that traditional sense, right? It's not a place that you have actual trouble navigating. It's just a thing it doesn't frustrate passage or trap. It is a weird. This is a weird differentiation. It feels like terrain are functions of landscape. I understand, like, you might want to throw a terrain in there when you're in a situation, but like planning one over, like, what is this? What does mastery mean? What does craves mastery mean? It craves mastery over the maelstrom? I don't know. Yeah, like it's kind of a breeding pit. Bar the way, open the way, provide another way, shift, move, rearrange. Present a guardian. Now, I'm looking at this. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's a mastery over people. Okay, yeah. It is a breeding pit. It just doesn't generate badness that leaves. We on the highway? Cool. The badness is spook. I don't quite get how to do, like, how to imply the, like, pushing. Like, that feels like advanced GMing, right? Like, advanced GMs, push this, right? That's what it feels like to me. Display something for all to see, hide something, by the way, provide another way, shift, move, rearrange. Disgorge something. I'm going to put these in there. I'm not 100% sure that I don't need threat moves from grotesques. Or some of them. Let's do the proper thing. Alright. Yeah, right? Put it into someone's... Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm real tempted to mash these up. Insult, offend, or provoke someone. Attack someone face on without a threat or warning. Attack someone behind or display the contents of its heart. Display... Yep, fuck it. Nah, this is happening. This is happening. Now, the reason I'm leaving person in there is because, yeah. Yeah, right? Okay. It's going to be real hard for me to talk about, like, who I think the person for the highway is without getting real spooked, though, real quick. Well, so connected I'm using for, like, cast as well as, like, other shit. Fuck it. And, like, these aren't things that we'll necessarily see on screen. But I'm not going to play you any sound bites, don't worry. Because I don't think I can handle that right now either. Stories? Yoga in general? Where is it? Bongo. Bongo's friend. Bongo's captor. No, it's not captor. Something. When it's daylight and you are feeling good, you might want to try this one out. They say that you have to listen to it at night when the lights turned off, but Jesus Christ, don't do that. Because Christ. This is bitey.com, by the way. Is Adam Phillips has an amazing collection of Australian ghost stories and things. Those are the two that I'm gonna keep in my head when I'm thinking of it. Oh, if you've been paying attention, there's already been a min light in the game. It lives at the top of the radio tower. I've not heard of the Highway of Tears, but I'm about to look it up. Oh god. Wow. Uh-huh. Yeah, right. Cool. I'm not gonna go into that further. Because I don't wanna, like, freak myself out again. Yeah, scary human tragedy, but what if it were ghosts? How long have we been going for, by the way? Okay, alright, a bit over an hour. Yeah, I'm gonna go for a little bit longer, and then I'm probably gonna just call it for the evening, for the afternoon, before we actually start playing, and I can spend a bit of time just, like, resting a bit more. Because it was a long week, it was a big weekend, and I'm still kind of exhausted. It's a thing. I'm just putting it on there. Yeah. Hi, Kane. You came to the spoop zone. We're getting into the spoop. I'm just gonna keep coming back to this, hey, right? Like, this is such good, like, collation of stuff. Stream, Cold Man. No. Have we got more? Where is the see more? The face. There we go. I'm just gonna call it the face. Alright. Y'all can look this shit up later when you're comfortable to. I am not going to make you read this right now, especially because it's nighttime for some people, and I don't want to do that. That should be at the top though. Should it? I don't know. I can't remember what I've done with the others. What have I done with the others? Have I put that at the top or have I put it? Yeah, put it at the top. Cool. Breeding pit at the top. There we go. That's what it does. Alright, cool. Yeah, right? Like this thing, like the Grove, less so. I feel like because the wizards live there, right? I feel like they've like got this like bond to it. But yeah, the highway as personified like thing. Yeah, what is the purpose of the highway? It's to like partially it's to put this like weirdness right in the middle of everything, right? Like if people want to cross it, like partially it's a dividing line, right? This is a border zone. The fact that it is dangerous, and the fact that it is like contains all the spoopiness, is the reason that we haven't had. No one has to deal with the man directly, right? Like these people live over here, Yowie, the Quarries, the Gearheads, and Paradise are quite separate normally from all of this shit, right? Yeah. And yeah, exactly, right? And I think the thing is that like the bridge is like one of the few places where there's a bridge there, there's a bridge here, and there's a bridge here. And I think one of the interesting things is that there are places where it's like a liminal zone where you can kind of safely, maybe, like, you risk things going across the bridge. But if you go down into the highway, or up onto the highway, whatever, yeah, these good, you write good words, yeah, isolates petitions and generates fear. Those are all things it does. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's quote unquote safely, right? Like, I want crossing that bridge to be the thing where it to be like Halloween, right? It's the bit where you come to the border of being on the highway directly. And I think being on the highway, to me, is the equivalent of being in the Pillager, right? As soon as you end up in that, because it's an inset. As soon as you end up on that tarmac, on that bitumen, like, you are asking for ghostly troubles, right? Like, they are going to happen to you, and weird shit is going to happen, and it's not going to be nice. And it's a different kind of weird shit to whatever is actually out here, because the bush is more just representative of the maelstrom itself, and the wolves and things. So yeah, there's a thing there. Yeah, River of Badness. Yeah. Cool. All right, we have the highway. I don't think it ticks up in any way. I don't think the highway ever gets worse or better. Paradise only gets worse or better in their effect on the people in it. The man definitely gets worse or better. Why are you not typing? This is a weird one. which is where we're at now, because we've not 4, 6. I don't know what they look like more. I don't know what these 9 to 12 look like in a more like fixed sense than these like vague maneuvers. But I have a feeling that that's what that looks like. Yeah. I don't think that the highway would be like. Actually, no. Fuck it. Yeah. Yeah. No. I know what this issue is. If it gets worse, I don't know what causes it to. But like 9 o'clock is free of its physical, of its geographical bounds, right? The highway is a force. 3 is whispers. 4 is 6 is bleed. Right, like, yeah, World of Ghosts. Yeah, that's, yeah, we do know what the man's thing is. Like, currently, their thing is Tau. They want Tau. That is what these two have been about, right? I feel like if they get up to 9, 10, 11, 12, their demands, like the things that they're going to decide that they want, are probably going to expand, right? Like, yeah, in that, like, they're gonna go, well, if I'm gonna go and take Tau, I'm gonna take in a bunch of other shit that I want as well, which is probably going to bring them into conflict with either the Sons of Combustion, definitely Partridge. That's like, Sons of Combustion have some kind of access to food, it seems like. I'm just gonna put that in there. And Partridge has because this is the deal that the Sons of Combustion were trying to do, right? Like, they want, yeah, right, they'd take everything between them and Tau, exactly. They would take, like, yeah, the man would take the guns that Partridge has, and probably a bunch of the people, might hit Sons of Combustion just because they fucking can. Who else was connected to? We have Styx and Hoover. Do we remember the name of our friend? Oh, Wisher is Styx's kid. I loved seeing the players specifically avoid getting into a situation where they would have to see the ramifications of the Styx-Wisher conflict. Styx-Wisher situation. Vegemite was the other one. Veggie... Right. Was our... Chat, can you remember... Styx is the dude. Cool. Yeah. Exactly. Cool. Alright. I know where Partridge is at. I don't have the direct thing for their countdown, but what are the specifics? Like, Partridge is at the point where they will get worse, right? They will... I reckon Partridge is a family that's ready to become a warlord. Cool. Alright, we know what the highway looks like if it gets worse. I don't know what makes it worse, but it can... Paradise, I think, actually ticks towards, like, destruction, right? I'm gonna call this Whispers again. And then I'm gonna call 6 o'clock. Descent. Is Descent the Widow one? Vegemite is Vegemite because they wear that shit like fucking war paint across their face. Although I don't know if they know what it is, they just yeah. Yeah, right? Like it's at 9. Yeah, cool. That's actual Descent. Like is that I mean that's I'm not gonna use the word anarchy because that's not exactly what I'm referring to. I'm referring to chaos. I'm referring to the chaos that comes when anarchy does not work. Alright. Cool. We have a countdown for him. Cool. I'm not going to do a countdown for the cold. I'm just using that to track how bad I think it is. The lights we have a countdown for. Partridge. Yeah, 9 o'clock tells me it's just getting worse, right? Like, that's all I need to know on that. Tau, the wolves, the wizards, the grove, I don't think... Yeah, cool. I don't think any of these require more countdowns. Sons of Combustion, though. What is that? God damn it, roll 20. Alright, we'll do this one, and then I think we're done for today, I think. We've gone through... The main things I wanted to go through today were what's happening over at Paradise, like what does that look like, and what are the wolves and the... What do the wolves and the Maelstrom look like, and what does the highway look like, and we've covered those. So, this one I'm trying to work out how, like, I need to just, like, count it down off screen a bit more. So this is hilarious because Balls doesn't know shit, but neither does anyone else in this fucking cult, so it's fine. balls looks like real leadership, so it counts. Um, what is that? Like, they want to victimize and incorporate. Unless I'm wrong about what they are. They're actually this, aren't they? I don't know. I think they become a mob. Like, not an uncontrolled one, but a mob. Right? Like, that's what they do. Like, combustion becomes flame. Because I think at the moment they're a cult, right? They want to bring people in, right? Until they get to the point. Fuck off. Organization. Add to dictionary. I think they want to bring people in and incorporate people until they, like... I'm thinking about this as like feeding a fire, right? Like, you need to bring things to the fire until it's big enough to reach out and take for itself, and then it becomes a conflagration. I'm gonna... I think that's what that looks like. Right? Like... Yeah. They are an apocalypse cult. Totally. They... like... They perceive... Let's do this. Let's chuck this in here. Because they're living in a wet or frozen apocalypse, right? The priest in their conflagration, that's amazing. They live in a wet, in a damp apocalypse, right? Combustion is hard here, right? We have petrol for cars, and that is like guaranteed combustion, and that's an important thing. They can cook food because they're the combustion cult, right? And so, like, they view the thing that is hard now, the thing that we've lost, quote unquote, or like lost huge access to, which is fire and combustion, as the thing that made the world great before the apocalypse. So, in order to make it great again, they just need to burn shit, right? It's cults give simple answers to complicated questions, and that's how they work, right? That's how they draw people in. That's how they continue about their business. And the question, what is different? Like, what is different now? Why are things shit now? Right? The complex question, why are things shit now, has the answer to the sons of combustion of there isn't as much combustion, right? And so, yeah, burn down the frozen apocalypse. I'm really interested to see if we get to do a time cut of 6 months in this game. I really want to. I'm just not sure when the right time is to get to the wet time. I really like the idea of because like there's a dry and a wet in like a dry season and a wet season in most of Northern Australia, but that dry season and that dry season is the cold. Is it the coldest section? I mean, it feels like the coldest section to me, right? It doesn't, because it feels less humid. Yeah, I'm interested to like explore what monsoonal Finnis Heights and Morford Gardens look like. So that's going to be cool. But I like, at the moment we're playing 2 minute to minute for that. we've had like one or two little like a couple of days jump. I feel like we might time jump after the situation with Paradise and the Man is resolved if it has a quote unquote resolution. The other one is if Partridge goes to midnight, then we skip ahead, like straight up, right? Like if Partridge gets to midnight, whatever that looks like on screen will be our like mid-season break, and we'll skip ahead 6 months to what it looks like with Partridge at midnight, and whatever is happening over here will have gone to its own nuclear as well. There might be a war, we'll see. But yeah, right. Like second edition encourages you, I think, to time skip, right? It says don't worry if you like, don't assume you have to do minute to minute. But the way it right, like it says at the end of second edition doesn't know whether it wants you to play minute to minute or not, right? Because it deals with situations in, like, all of the moves that you're given are minute to minute moves, right? Most of them, rather, right? The basic moves, which define the main play, are about what are you doing right now. And yet, you have the end of session moves. The start of session moves require you, and we've said we're just not doing that this turn, last time, and we're probably this session as well. The end of session moves, the start of session moves require you to have a time skip, basically. Either that, or for there to have been a decent chunk of time between session, like in the last session, right? It assumes that at least a week, or about like a week, several days at least, have passed between the start of the first session, like one session, and the start of the next. But if you are doing battle moves and then reading people and reading situations and shit like that, you are doing minute to minute. And it puts pressure on the GM to try and find the space where we take a pause, right? But your threats aren't giving you the space for that a lot of the time. The requirement of the GM to make a move often pushes it back into the minute to minute. So, yeah. I'm not going to do the start of session moves for this one, for like today's session, because we left on a cliffhanger in the middle of action, basically. Although we did have a 3-day cut. Maybe we should just do it. Fuck it, 3 days, we can do that. That's fine. We'll do 3 days worth of requiring things just to push things out of whack. Yeah. But yes, I am eagerly looking out for a time when we can skip ahead 6 months and get into the wet, and see how that affects the difference in, like, the fucking cold goes away. What is do we have deharm, like, from... Do we have deharm dry? Is that a thing? We don't have deharm dry, right? Like, we have deharm water, but not deharm... What does that look like? Is that deharm air? Deharm sleep? Yeah, deharm cool is a thing. That's an interesting thing that we'll get to that when we... Yeah, I think the answer is that it actually applies from others, right? Like, the wet creates other deprivations. But I think, as far as prep, I'm feeling set up for today's game. These two are good. Do we have a 2-layered one? I'm just wondering if I need a map for our thing. I would use colonnades, but I want which is the real one, but I specifically want not how to get there, Jesus. I want the map of the store. Alright, because that could actually be important. That's tiny. Do we have a better one? It's Solarx, yeah, exactly. Really? Am I gonna be screenshotting this? Is this what's happening? There's a Bunnings there. That's so good. I forgot that. Oh, that's excellent. Alright. I think I can work it out from that. I'm just going to chuck this into the GM layer and we can, so that I've got it there. Where are we? Screenshot. Cool. I want to have a vague idea of what this, what the layout of this place looks like, just because it will help me with my, when I'm like scene describing and shit. That looks about right. I got a map layer. Let's just polygon line. Is that what I was using before? Must be. Map layer, polygon. Cool. Again, I'm using this particular shopping center because I worked there for however many years, and I can barf it. And colonnades is too spread out. It's not fortressy enough. Cool. All right, that is great. I'm just gonna put some. Do I need to move that off the GM layer so that I can see what I'm doing? Kinda, yeah. I'm just gonna. I know what I'll do. Yeah, cool. No line. Fill in. Good. Cool. Just want to mark out where their like borders are, you know. That. Oh, fuck me. Yeah, so that should tell me. That'll tell me. Oh god damn it! Don't do that. that tells me where their, like, what their land looks like if we, oh, except I've done that in, like, the wrong color. App and background. Darker? Too dark. Darkish? Darkish. Dark-ish. Cool. Alright. That just tells me, that just tells me a bit more about, like, what the space looks like, which I want to know. So I'm assuming there's a fence along here and that sort of shit. Cool. Yeah, too wet rotting is definitely a thing. When we get to the wet season, one of the things that is going to be in my head is going to be oh god, the Tarkovsky film, the post-apocalyptic Tarkovsky film, but I can't remember the name. Stalker's going to be in my head a lot when we're talking about the wet season. That part one of that film is something else. Like the second half is amazing, but part one speaks to me at a like deep level. I'm just gonna leave that there so that I can reference it without. Cool. All right. Now we're prepped. Now we're ready to go. That sounds like we have all the things we need. And we're ready to go. All right. Well, it is what, an hour and a half till we start playing? Yeah, hour and a half, and then we'll use all this shit. This should last me for a little bit. Hopefully, we'll see how quickly it all degrades. I will see you in a little bit. Thanks for coming along and chatting with me. It's been really like helpful, good discussion prompts, and like good questions and things, and solid suggestions from a bunch of you as far as like what things look like and how we can structure them to fit into our narrative, which is really good. Yeah, no, go to bed, Andrew. There are VODs. So, Kane, we've just finished session 3. We're about to start session 4 out of 10 that are planned. So, yeah. But, yes, if it's late where you are, don't worry, there are VODs. We will be starting up in an hour and a half, and I'll chuck this up on YouTube and tell my players definitely not to look at it, in a couple of days. But other than that, thanks for popping along. I'm gonna go and eat some food and do my makeup and stuff, and then we'll be back soon to see this all burn down. Thanks for coming along. Bye.